what we're talking about today is, what word are you holding on to today? What's that word that God gave you, that you're holding on to uh, today? And I know we are all in very different phases of life. We're all in very different seasons in life, but God is faithful, and I'm here not only to share my testimony of what my word in season has been and what God has done for me, but I'm also here to encourage you that not to give up on the word that God has given you, not to give up on the word that God has given you. And so today, I can let us begin. Let us begin. God, we welcome you here today, and we invite your presence, Lord. And I pray, God, that you may use me as a vessel of honor, God, and inspire my words, God, and speak to your people in a way that they understand best, oh God. And, at the end of it all the glory and honor shall go back to you, God. I pray, the Bible says that where two or three are gathered in my name, you are there, God. And I know uh, that we're gathering online, and I have people online here. It's more than two of us, and so I know your presence is here, God, and I know you will be with us, God, and I know, Lord, that Lord, you will bring resolution, you will bring answers, you will bring healing, you will bring breakthrough, God, today. God, I pray that this session is not going to be in vain, oh Lord, because uh, your word is not vain. It doesn't go void, but it accomplishes what it was meant to accomplish, God. Your word says that your word is like a double-edged sword. It pierces through to the marrow, God. And I pray, Lord, today, use me as a vessel of honor, God. But I pray today, Lord, that my words, Lord, that are going to come from my mouth, Lord, will be inspired by you. Thank you for setting the table for us, Lord. And thank you for using me today, Lord, to bring glory to your kingdom. And we pray all this, believing and trusting in Jesus' name. And everybody said, Amen, 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 amen. All right. So what I want to talk about today is I want to base it on the book of Hebrews, Hebrews chapter 11. The book of Hebrews chapter 11, and I'm not gonna read the whole. I'm not gonna read the whole chapter. The whole, when you look at Hebrews 11, uh, that the chapter really talks about faith in action, and it gives stories of uh, people who practiced their faith, people who held on to the word that God had given to them, and but the book of Hebrews chapter 1 says that now faith is the substance of things, of things hoped for, and evidence of things not seen. Sometimes in life, God gives us a word, and when we think about this word, if the kind of word that I'm talking about, the Rema word that I'm talking about, is not just anything that you can do for yourself. I'm not talking about something that you're able to do by your own strength. I'm not talking about something that you can be able to accomplish by your own self. That's not the word I'm talking about. I'm talking about the word that God has given you that scares you, because there's no remote reason. It doesn't make any sense how that will happen. That is the word that I'm talking about. I'm talking about the word that God gives you, and it's like, I have no idea how you are going to accomplish this in my life, God, because the way my life looks right now, it doesn't look anything close to what you're telling me that I'm going to accomplish. And so that's the word I'm talking about. And we're going to talk about this. We're going to talk about Hebrews. We're going to talk about some of these examples about people who were given word, and it was crazy. But I'm also going to tell you my story, me when I was very little, that at that point in time did not make any sense at all, that would ever happen in my life. And so When you look at the Bible and you look at the so many stories, and the way God uses people, it just God doesn't he doesn't use the qualified people. He doesn't use the people who have everything right. He doesn't use people who can, who have everything in place, the perfect people, because there is not perfect people. There's not perfect person. God, in the scriptures, has often used people who are broken in so many ways. When you talk about someone like David, you know David, uh, David is at one point in time, David, God said David is like David is a man after God's heart. And when you think about that, like, wait, so David was a man who was after God's heart, and this is the guy who pretty much, like, killed somebody's husband to be able to take over their wife, and bear with them a child. And this is the man that God turns around and says, "This guy is after my heart." This guy is a guy after my heart. When you look at scripture, look at someone like Moses. Moses was a stammerer. He couldn't talk. But this is the guy. This is the guy that God used to take the Israelites out of Egypt, out of Egypt. And so when you look at scripture, when you look at the kind of people that God uses the people who are broken. God uses the people who are not qualified, and he qualifies them. Because, in our logical mind, when you think about, the story of Moses, look at Moses. In a logical sense, when you think about Moses, you would think, so if you were like, for one point, you get to stand in the seat of God and be like, hey, you choose somebody who is going to take my people, from Egypt, and set them free. You probably be thinking about somebody who is a negotiator, somebody who can speak well, somebody who is confident in who they are, somebody who, is very convincing, can go and convince their way out of a situation. No. But then God just, the guy he uses is this guy. He can't even string words together because he stammers. He has a condition with the way he speaks. But God uses that guy to do the mighty things. And so when you think about the word, in life, God puts in us dreams. God gives us a word that we hope onto. That sometimes it doesn't make any sense how it's going to get accomplished. It doesn't make any sense how we will ever get there. But God just gives us a word and says, I'm going to do this with you. I'm going to do this through you. And it's mind blowing, because sometimes when you share these things with people, people laugh at you, because there is no way this guy is going to accomplish what he's saying he will accomplish. And so the word in season, the word that God gives us, the word of our life, the dreams that God has put in us, God does it, and he knows how he will take us there. He knows how he will take us there. And one story after another story, God God shows that, that if we put our faith in action, if we hold on to God, if we still believe in him, if we stay faithful to him, the promises that he gives us, the word that he gives us, he will bring it to completion. He will surely bring it to completion. And it might seem, it's very, because, and that's what the Bible says, is like the see, the things of the kingdom are foolishness to the people of the world. You know how that you apply the story of Noah. God tells Noah that build an ark, because, and people should go in that ark to be saved. If you don't go in there, you will not be saved. And Noah spent years building an ark. It's like, I'm sure there were people who would bath and see Noah building the ark and be like, Look at this crazy person. Why is he building an ark that we can go into, that it's that everyone is going to be required to go in this ark? That's the kind of word that I'm talking about. It's the kind of word that people who in their ordinary mind look at that, look at the dreams that God has put in your life, and they go, look at this crazy little man. Look at this crazy person. Look at this guy. He thinks he is out of his mind to think that we are all going to get into this ark. And then what happens? What happens is the word that God gave to Noah came to pass. It came to pass. And the people who are laughing at him, they were not laughing at him when it was raining for that. They were not laughing at him when they were drowning. But they were surely laughing at him when he was building that ark. And so sometimes God puts a word in us that is just so crazy when people think about it. Look at Joseph. Look at Joseph. I mean, I just, for me, one of the most inspirational characters in the Bible, people, is Joseph. Joseph's life is like, like, one of those people. I'm sure in Joseph's life, when Joseph would think about it to himself, he would be like, I am just the most unfortunate person ever. Like, when will things ever go right for me? From the onset, God starts to show him dreams, and he shares these dreams with his brothers, and his brothers turn against him. I mean, he's almost killed because of sharing his dreams. This is what I'm talking about when I'm talking about the word in season. It's like, what word is God giving to you today? What are the dreams that God has given you that is making people turn against you? It's like Joseph did not ask for those dreams. God just gave it to him. Joseph did not say, hey, God, give me these dreams so that my brothers can reject me and almost kill me, and I can go to a place and go through whatever he went through. See, the word that God has given to you, sometimes it takes years. It takes very, very long for you to get to the point and, and sit back and say, God, I can see your faithfulness. I can see your hand in everything that you have done. Like, I'm sure at one point when Joseph's family, so, for those who do not know the story of Joseph, what happened with Joseph is Joseph, God starts to show Joseph these dreams and visions, and he shares with his brothers. And his brothers start to think, who is this guy think he is to think that we're going to bow down to him and stuff. So they take him. First of all, they want to throw him into a pit, like a hole, and just they want to kill him. And then one of the brothers says, oh, no. Why don't we just, why don't we sell them to Egyptians? And so that we will never see him again. And so he gets sold. And because he shared his dreams with his brothers sold him. And he goes to Egypt. And it's like, okay, so family betrayal is the first thing that Joseph encounters in his life. And then he goes on, starts living in Egypt, and you start working because you were sold as a slave. You start working your way out. He starts working his way out. And just when things are starting to go good for him, he's now working in Pharaoh's house, and Pharaoh's wife wants to lie with him. And Joseph doesn't want to do that. And so because he rejects Pharaoh's wife, Pharaoh's wife cries and tells the husband he was, he wanted to have his way with me. Joseph did not do such a thing. He did not want to lie with Pharaoh's wife. He gets thrown into prison. I mean, like, okay, so my own family rejected me. And then I come in here and I start to do good work. I start to build good things for myself. And then before I know it, I'm in prison for something I did not even do. I mean, at this point, I'm like, Joseph, I'm sure Joseph is wondering, what is it that I ever did? It's like, God, what is it that I ever did to deserve all these things? Why me? But it's because of the dreams that God had put in Joseph. God had a plan in place. That it might seem like these things were just, this guy was just unfortunate in how he got to do things. But because of the dreams that God had put in his life, that elevated him. Because at one point, Pharaoh needed somebody to interpret his dreams. And that is where Joseph came in. Joseph rose to the point of being second highest in power in Egypt. His family that had once sold him had to come to Egypt to beg for food. The brothers who had betrayed him, family, he was betrayed by family. He was betrayed by strangers. But then God just turns it around. And that's, see, the word sometimes God puts in us dreams that almost feel like they are curses because of the things that we go through to be able to get to where we're going. And so, what word, what dreams has God put in your life that it just seems like you're cursed? It seems like you're cursed. What dreams, what word has God put in your life that people just keep laughing at you? See, I wanted to share this because I was one of those people that God put a word in my life. God put a dream in me. And the way, God speaks through people. God sometimes speaks to us directly. God sometimes speaks through people. So for me, I didn't grow up with my dad. My dad had other families and we were the other family. And but the few times I got to hang out with my dad when I was growing up, he spoke very highly of accountants. I had no idea who accountants was, who accountants are. But one of the few times I got to hang out with my dad, he spoke very highly of accountants. So he was never an accountant. But for some reason, he would maybe he was an office messenger or something like that. That is not something. I never got to know what my dad did. But me and my dad were good. He's in heaven now, and but I don't even think my dad got to know this, that he put the dream in me to become an accountant. He spoke so highly of accountants. And it was in an office in Strathmore that he would go and see this accountants, and they were all well dressed and they would be typing on their computers, and he would speak so highly of this accountants. And I mean, the way I heard him speak, I just caught on to that word, and in my heart, I just said, hey, you know what? When I grow up, I want to be an accountant. I did not know then that was God that was speaking to me, but now I know that was God that was speaking to me. And so I caught on to that dream that one day when I grow up, I'm going to become an accountant. But there's something called life between dreams that God puts in your life and those dreams coming true. Life is between. People are between. Heartbreak is between. Storms are between. There's a road, there's a journey that you have to get to where you are today, to the dreams that God has placed in your hands. There is a journey. And the journey is often not easy. You have to fight. Sometimes you have to crawl to get to your dreams. So God has put in my heart that I want to become an accountant when I grow up. But then I look at my life and my family and the family that I was born in, and my mom, she's a sole breadwinner. My mom would wash clothes for people to make food for us. I put this in quantity. I say she would make about 500 Kenya shillings to 1,000 in a month. $5 to $10 a month. There's no way that will ever fund my dream to become an accountant. And so I grew up in abject poverty, total poverty. The house that I grew up in, there was no electricity. The house that I grew up in had so many holes in what I would call my bedroom. I can't even, it's like the bed I would call my bed, it was a cardboard and this thin mattress that was so torn. You know how you've slept on a mattress that there's a hole in the middle of the mattress? Just because the mattress is so tiny, but you've never changed it for years. And so you have to put a cardboard on top of it, just so that you can sleep. And then you sleep in that, and then the roof, and it rains a lot in Kenya. And there were so many holes, you kept trying to seal them, but you would not seal all of them because every time it rained, there was a new hole that kept coming up. I even got tired of sealing holes, and it's like I would just, and that's one of the blessings that I have today is I can sleep anywhere because I often slept on a wet bed. Guys, like I'm thinking, okay, yeah, it's really good that God has put this dream in me to become an accountant, but how will I ever get there when I can't even string 3 meals in a day? That I have to knock on people's doors and pretend I'm watching TV so that I can get food. It's like, how will I ever get from here to what God? It's like to a point where, just growing up in generational poverty, where it's like poverty is passed on from one generation to the next. To think I was the last hope in my whole family to ever make it out of poverty. And so it's like, okay, God, you've put this dream in me, but how will I ever get there? Because nothing looks like I will ever get there. See, growing up and people looking at you straight in the eyes. I grew up with people looking at me and telling me, don't waste your time dreaming because none of your dreams will ever come true. And these people would not blink. I grew up with people who looked at me and thought I was worth less. It would have been better for my mom to have gotten a packet of flour than give birth to me. Kind of words, people would tell you words to tear you down, to let you know you are not part of God's plan. And I'm thinking, God, you placed this dream in me, but it doesn't look like I'm gonna ever get there. How will I ever get to that place? Doubts, they creep in. You give up on life. And every time you listen to God, he's like, be still and know that I am God. But sometimes it's so hard to hold on to the word that God has given you. It is so hard when life doesn't look like you're heading in the right direction. Most of my childhood, it felt like my dreams were in this direction, but my life was going in the other direction. I mean, I struggled to go through school every time, you know, raising school fees was a problem for me. I seldom stayed in school because they often sent me home because I did not have the money to pay up my whole school fees. I'm like, I'm crawling. I'm crawling just to make it through elementary, primary school. And then I go to high school. And so here's the thing. Nobody in my immediate family had graduated high school before I did. You know, my brother, our firstborn brother, had been the one who was the most learned in our family. But he got to third year in high school and he dropped out. And I mean, I was the last hope, the last born in the family of three boys. My middle brother didn't even waste time going to high school because school wasn't his thing. And I'm thinking, God, you put a dream in me and it doesn't look like we'll ever get there. God, how will we ever get there? But I'm so thankful to God because, you know, if you listen to him, if you spend time with him, if you listen to his voice, just like, you know, the sheep says, it's like the sheep know my voice. If you know his voice and you're able to listen to him, you will hear him when he speaks to you. And so through all the disappointment, through all the discouragements, through all the people who tore me down, I mean, there's no word that I've never been told in this life. You know, and sometimes it's so unfortunate that family, the people who are supposed to encourage you, are the people who tear you down the most, unfortunately. Family is the people who are supposed to be holding you together, telling you it doesn't look like it's gonna be, but keep pushing. No, often they're the people who are telling you, don't waste your time, man. You were not cut out for this. You were not cut out for this. And so it was a long journey. And the reason I'm telling you my story is because I want to remind you, what word has God put in your life that it seems like it's impossible for you to get there? To me, I'm here to tell you that I'm just a man who has a big God. And I was a small boy with a dream. And I did not know then how big my God was. But to people, I just seemed like this little boy, born poor. This little boy who cracked legs and just I was poor and I looked and smelled like it, man. But I did not know then, but I know now that I was a small boy with big dreams, but with a big God. But he looked like he wasn't there. People could not see him. All they could see was this small boy with a dream. I mean, I remember sometimes when you're starting to change generational poverty, even the people who are close to you start to go against you. Because when I was about to finish high school, it's like when I went into the fourth year of high school, then people started to realize, wait, you mean this little boy that we called hopeless and worthless is actually going to finish high school and be the first one in his family to graduate high school? So the people who were close to me, they started to tell me, what are you trying to tell us? What are you trying to show us? Your family doesn't do anything. Nothing good comes out of your family. Who do you think you are? What are you trying to show us? And I'm like, I'm not trying to show you anything. I'm trying to live I'm trying to crawl to my dreams. So but that's the thing is it's the most important thing is as long as God is on your side, it doesn't matter who else is tagging along. They can all be against you, and it would not even matter if God is by your side. They cannot be talking. They cannot be trying to close doors. The world can try to be against you, but if God is for you, no one can be against you. All you need is God. All you need is God, because I graduate high school. I'm not even able to go get my certificate because it took me a couple of years to clear my my high school fees that were due. Try to ask people and family, nobody. It took me having to, because I graduate high school and then I start to realize, I one point woke up in the morning and I walked all the way to downtown, Nairobi downtown. Took him almost like 3 hours to walk from my home to downtown, city center, Nairobi. What my plan was to go to every college and collect all their brochures because I wanted to see how I can do my CPA. And so I went to every college, collected brochures, and I brought it home and I was trying to see what is the easiest. I mean, what can we afford? What can my mom afford to pay, to pay for me so that at least I can go study some course in accounting that will take me in that direction. And then I had a plan in place and I thought, this is the least amount of money. I was like, I hope my mom can be able to afford it. I mean, I knew in the back of my mind, my mom she doesn't have that money. And so I sat her down and I had a plan in place and all the structure and how much she would have to save little by little so that I could go there. And I showed her my plan and my mom looked at me and with tears in her eyes, she told me, my son, I don't want to give you false hope. And you've done a great job in trying to put this together. But she told me plain. She just told me, I'm sorry. There's no way I can be able to afford that. I'm not going to be able to help you get to your dreams. And I'm so glad that my mom sat me down and told me that, because it made me realize that I had to look for a different source. I had to look for a different source, and my source wasn't going to be my family. It just reminded me to go back to my source. And that's when I was like, I just closed being hopeful. And I'm like, I said, God, you put this dream in my heart to one day become an accountant. My mom was very honest with me. She will never be able to pay for my fees to even do any accounting course. And so I said, God, I'm just gonna do what I can do to be able to support my family. And then if you open that door, God, you will open that door. And so I stopped looking at schools. I just said, hey, you know what? I closed that door. My friends, who were well off, they started to go off to college. And I mean, I knew I had passed, but there was no way school was ever going to work out for me. And so I closed that door and I said, God, I'm going to do what I can do to be able to support not only me, but my family. And so I started working as a construction worker. And that's where I put my dreams. I'm like, God, if you open that door, I'm going to be ready. I don't want to have, I don't want to keep nudging on a door that is not open. I said, God, when you open that door, make it so wide that I cannot miss it. So I stopped thinking about my dreams of becoming an accountant, and I started working as a construction worker. And it was hard manual labor, but it would pay me. And it would pay me, and I would be able to support my mom. That's that became my dream. It's like, so I was gonna work so hard. I was gonna one day become a foreman. That was my dream. Is yeah, because I want to provide, and I don't want to waste my time, and I don't want to. I don't want to hang on a door that is not open, and so which is so good sometimes to be in the season that you are in. I know God has put dreams in your life, but if it's not that season, you should focus on the season that you're in. And that's what I did. I focused on the season that I was in. And I was a very good construction worker. I worked very hard. And it led me to, even be promoted in there. But it was so this is the thing, because sometimes you don't understand is there's a reason why you are in the season that you're in. Because while I was going to my job, on my way back one day, I met this guy. I met this guy we were sponsored by Compassion. I did not even know that Compassion did anything other than, you know, uh, taking you to school and all that stuff, helping you a little bit. And they did help me a little bit, pay for some of my school fees, but then my mom would have to cover the rest. And a lot of times we were not able to, but, I came to know the Lord through Compassion, through going to the church. And I did not know that Compassion had a program that actually pays for college, university for kids. But it was while I was doing my construction work and I was coming home, I met this guy. This guy was 1 year ahead of me in Compassion. And he was just coming from an orientation where he had gotten accepted to this program. It's a leadership program that helps you pay for all your college, university. And I'm like, and he starts talking to me, and I'm here. I have cement in my face, and I have like I'm dirty. I'm coming from construction manual work. I'm dirty. But then he starts to tell me, he was just from the orientation, and they were like, and he was saying it's like how amazing it is to get that opportunity. And I'm like, what are you talking about? You mean you're doing this through Compassion? And he said, yeah. You didn't know about this program? He's like, I have no idea about this program. Then he starts to tell me about this program. He's like, hey, you're a very smart boy. You passed your exams. All you need to do is you need to be involved in the community. You need to be involved in the church. And then with good grades. And you never know, you can qualify for this program. And so I'm like, wait, so that's how God works. He works in the season that I was in. I met this guy. I met this guy, and I met my destiny connector while I was in my season. And so I get home that day, and I'm like, I'm not going back to construction anymore if this opportunity exists. And I'm like, you need to be born again, and be involved in church and helping out in the community. And I'm like, I need to start working on my resume right now so that I can apply for this program. So I stopped being a construction worker and I start going into the church. So Compassion works through local churches. So the programs are run through the church. I start to volunteer at the project, and what I would go is I would go and cook for the staff. I volunteered so much that at one point the project director sat me down and told me, uh, we don't need you anymore. If we'll need you, we'll call you. So have you ever volunteered so much that they stop you from volunteering? That's what happened to me. But at the same time, I began to be involved in the church. A lot of you don't know, but I'm actually yeah, used to be, maybe I can sing, but I was a very good singer in high school. Actually, I was a tenor one in high school, and I sang for uh, my school is the one that actually formed the Kenya Boys Choir. So, and I sang there for 4 years. I had a really good voice, and so I transitioned and I started doing praise and worship in my church. I know that's surprising to people, but I can sing. And I became involved in the church, and so a year next year comes by, I apply for this program, and apply for this program, and I send out my application, and I'm like, now it's praying. I did like a 40-day fast with my friend, and was just hoping that I was gonna get it. So I applied it. I don't even know whether I'm gonna qualify because this a very competitive program. So many people apply, not very many people get it. And so one day there was a family gathering that was going on. Thank you so much, William. There was a family gathering that was going on, and something crazy in my head. It's a voice from God. It seems like a very crazy voice from God tells me, go take the mic and tell these people that next year, a time like this, you're going to be at the University of Nairobi and you're going to be studying the Bachelor of Commerce. I'm like, yo, what? Because I just sent my application. There's like thousands of people who apply. Very few people get it. But then God is here telling me in a family gathering, these people who know my mom cannot afford to take me to the university. God is telling me, go take the mic and announce it to the people. And I'm like, God, you said it, I'm going to do it. Because it's not me who's going to be on the line, it's you, God. And so I went, took the microphone, surprised a lot of people because the people know. It's like it's a family gathering. They know you guys are poor like the church mouse. There's no way that will ever happen. And you'll be the first one in the whole family to ever go to university. So I take the mic and I say, excuse me, everybody. Excuse me. I have an announcement. I have an announcement that I need to make. And so I attract everybody's attention. Now everybody's looking at me. And they're thinking, you know how, unfortunately, when with families, you have money, you are in a certain class. You don't have money, you're in a certain class. There's levels. And so they're probably wondering, what is this poor peasant boy trying to do? Because it's like your family doesn't have money. You don't stand and hold the mic. But I've attracted the attention of people and I'm about to make the announcement. And it's like I tell people, excuse me, my name is Owengithanga, for those who do not know me. And I wanted to make an announcement. And I wanted to say that next year, I will be studying at the University of Nairobi. And I'll be doing my Bachelor of Commerce. And I just wanted to let you know. So, and then I put the mic down. You know the awkwardness of what am I sister? I'm sure there were people there who looked at me and thought, has this guy started smoking weed or something? He is losing it. He is losing it. What is he even saying? That he's going to go to, how are you going to afford to go to the university and your mom makes about $5 to $10 a month? I'm sure that day I confused a lot of people. I confused myself because I'm crazy. I'm thinking I'm crazy. God, how am I even standing and doing this? Telling people that, oh, Jesus, 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 Jesus. What did I just do? And then life moves on. So one encounter. So I'm waiting the whole time. So, waiting for the results to come out, to ever find out whether I'm ever going to go to, college, go to the university. And I had this one encounter with people who were close to me, people who were supposed to be encouraging me. And it was one of those experiences that people who sometimes are often close to you are the people who can tear you down the most. And this was a very painful experience because, I went to their place. I was still waiting. I was waiting, I was waiting for me to hear back whether I'm gonna get an interview or, and the way I used to go eat at people's places is I would go pretend that I'm watching the TV, and then when they serve food, I eat there, and then after eating, I say my goodbyes and then go back home. So that was one of the days too. It's like I go pretend I'm watching TV because I want, I'm waiting for them to cook so that I can eat, get food there. So I'm waiting for food, and then, oh man, all these people who are so close to me, people who are supposed to be loving me, and feel like everybody was present in that room. They just started talking to me, and they started to tear me down, like telling me, why don't you take your mom and go to the radio station, ask for help, ask for people to help you to go to school. They started to tell me how useless I was. I, I was a worthless. See, the only thing I said was the announcement that I made to my family. I didn't say anything else. I didn't tell them I had applied for anything. Nobody knew except me and my mom. And so they tear me down. They tell me how worthless I am. Just, it's like how people just look at you and they group you with whatever has happened in your family. These people who are close to me, they tore me down. It got so bad that I just started, how you feel like you have a ball in your throat and you have these tears that are in your head that they're just about to come out. But then you're getting really angry because these people are supposed to be on my side, but they're tearing me down. They're tearing me and my mom down. I knew if I speak here today, I am going to say something that I'm going to regret. And so I stormed out. And I remember that night I went home crying. I went home crying. That was a really rough day. People who were supposed to be pouring into your life. I went home crying. Those very hot tears, you feel them. But there was just one question I kept saying, God, these people, the one thing they want to ask is, the one question they're asking is, what kind of a God do you serve? Ask God, show yourself. Because those people back there, they're asking the question, what kind of a God I serve? God was listening, even though I was like, I thought he wasn't listening. Hey, exactly 1 week after that, I get a letter in the mail. No, I get a letter, and it was sent to the church. They call me, say, you have a letter here. Open the letter. Says, you have been selected as one of the interviewees in this program. It was called the Leadership Development Program. I go for the interviews, and man, I had a resume. I was a soloist in the praise and worship. Man, I had volunteered so much in my community. I even started a dance group in my church because I was a really good dancer. So my resume was good. I go there and I'm like, God, I'm just gonna show up, and I know you're gonna back me up. So I show up, interview, and And now they have to make a choice whether they're gonna accept me into the program or not. I wait another week. So exactly 2 weeks after that day when these people who were close to me humiliated me, I was called again to the office and they said, you have received a letter. I go to the office, I get the letter. Man, and I'm thinking, if if I open this letter and it says you are not successful, that is the end of my dreams. If this letter doesn't say that I've been accepted, then the people I took the microphone and made an announcement to are gonna laugh at me for the rest of my life. Say, God, have you ever been so tense to open a letter? But this is the letter this is the letter that will directly answer God's prayers. This is the letter that is going to make your dreams come true. This is the letter that is going to make the word that I was holding on to come true. Man, first of all, I go on my knees, I pray. God, thank you. I'm starting to thank God. I don't even know whether this program is really strict. It's like not very many people get it. So I pray, open the letter. The first words I get is congratulations. Congratulations. You have been accepted into the leadership development program. Shakara bobo. Like what? Till I'm like, what? I accepted. Oh. There's like, and then it's like, God is telling me, I am your God. And I'm like, yeah, I am who you say I am. I got accepted to this program that pays for all your college, university. And then you have to pass on to, the other battle was making sure that I would qualify to get admitted to do the Bachelor of Commerce degree at the University of Nairobi. But who is like God? Because God knew this ahead of time and he had gone and made every plan to make sure that everything would line up. Oh, Jesus, 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 Jesus. Jesus, Jesus, Jesus. The dream that God gave me, like when I was a 6, 7-year-old boy from my dad, got answered. When I was about, my gosh, it got answered 10 plus years later. I got to go to the University of Nairobi and I did my bachelor's degree in, accounting, BCom accounting. Graduated. As if God is, I think when you think about some of these things, it's like I would never have dreamt that my life would go the way it's gone. Because I thought I was just a simple small boy. But I did not know I was just a small boy with a dream, but with a big God. Because God wasn't stopping at me getting a bachelor's degree at the University of Nairobi. No. God was just beginning my journey. And then, so I go through college, I go through UON, and I save good money. And I'm thinking, I'm going to finish school. I had saved enough money, good money, because I'm an accountant. I've saved enough money to make sure that, hey, when I graduate, it takes people a long time to get jobs. So I had saved enough money to make sure that I had money to tarmac. So, fare, and to get food and print my resumes and take it to jobs. That was my plan. My plan was graduate, look for a job, but I had my money set up. Oh man. But God, see, my plans and God's plans sometimes don't go on the same road. And this was the case, that the plans that God had for my life are not the plans I had in place. And so what happened is, when I was almost getting done with my bachelor's of my BCom degree at the University of Nairobi, I went to church. I was going to Jubilee Christian Church, and on this service, one of the pastors was talking about, giving it all away. Giving it all away. He was giving his testimony and all that, but I heard the voice of God speak to me and tell me, "You're putting so much of your hope into the savings that you have in your bank account to help you, Tama, to help you look for jobs. But you're not putting your faith in me." He reminded me, "You remember how far I have got you from? This would not have been possible in your mind. What kind of a God do you serve?" God asked me back the same question I had asked him. What kind of God do you serve? And I'm like, oh, touche. God asked me, what kind of a God do you serve? I'm like, okay. I said, God, today I'm gonna take my faith from the money I have saved and put my faith in your hands. So what I did, that I went to first service that day. First service ends, I rushed to the ATM, I withdraw everything, all my savings, put it in an envelope, come back to church. While the second service was going on, I walked through the doors, I put my envelope on the altar, I walked away without a single shilling, without a single cent to my name. That is craziness to people. That is craziness to people. But man, me and my relationship with God, man, if you don't know my relationship with God, you would think I'm crazy. But I know the kind of God that I serve is the kind of God that tells me, take the mic and tell the people that you're going to the University of Nairobi without ever knowing how I will ever get there. I've taken my savings and I've put them on the altar and I've said, God, I'm taking my faith from my savings and I'm putting my faith in your hands. Because you have been with me through this whole process. Shakara. What? I'm walking out of I'm like, yeah, I'm still human. It's not like I'm like this stone cold faith believer. To the whole, when I'm walking back on the aisle, going to, getting out of the church, I'm thinking, what I can never make? Why did I even do what? Am I stupid? How could I take the money that I have and just leave it on the altar? Yeah, the devil was trying to tell me, go back and take that envelope, my friend. But I walked out. The minute I walk out of the church, I'm so confused. My head is like, I did not even remember to save fare to take me home. I did not have bus fare to go home from church that day. Because I had put everything I have in that envelope and I put it on the altar. And I said, God, I'm taking my faith from the savings that I have and I'm putting my faith in you, God. Standing outside the church, penniless. No food for that day, no lunch. And so confused, I'm thinking, man, do I start walking home now? Then a guy from where taps my shoulder and it's like, hey man, what you up to? We start talking and like, hey, let me buy you tea and let me buy you tea and a donut. And okay, yeah, he just tells me he wants to buy me tea and a donut. He buys me tea and a donut. We start talking. I haven't even told him anything. I at this point I'm so shocked. I don't want to share this with anybody because it's like I might have made the biggest mistake of my life by taking all my savings and putting it on the altar. I wasn't gonna share this with anybody, but I talked to this guy. This guy just fed me, and then out of nowhere, he takes money. He's like, "Hey, you know what? Hey, man, let me bless you with this." He blesses me with money enough for me to eat for a whole week and get fare to go back home. I'm like, "Yo, this." I'm like confused, and then the guy just walks before I even ask him anything. He just walks away. I'm thinking, this is so crazy. If your relationship with God is not crazy, man, you need to rethink your relationship with God. You need to rethink your relationship with God. If your relationship with God is not crazy, man, if if you can be able to supply for your dreams, if you can be able to supply for your goals, man, you're missing out. You have, I don't know about your God, but my God is so big. I don't know about your God, but my God is so big. If I'm stuck with a dream that I can be able to fund, I don't want that. I mean, I would tell you if you if your dreams and the word that you have today is something you can just be able to take out of your bank account or just swipe with a credit card, I need to tell you, go back and dream again. Dream something so big, my friend, that you start to sweat. Dream something that scares you. Because then God, it's like dream something that you cannot be able to fund, but God can fund for you. And that, my friend, I left my savings in the altar. But as God is my witness, the provision that started from that day, I can tell you, it was like craziness. It was like God would just, God kept providing. God kept providing. You know what? One of the most craziest thing is I get to hear about this scholarship at the University of North, University of, not University of North Dakota, North Dakota State University. That it's like, oh, we're giving you a job to work with an employer, and then we're paying for all your school. School is free. You actually get to work for an employer. I'm like, wait, that's a scam. There's no way that scholarship exists. What? Yeah. And for those of you who are watching on my YouTube, and even for those of you who are watching here on TikTok, on the 19th, if you go to my YouTube channel, the Kenya American Home, you'll see that video. It's already made. It's you'll see it there in Premiere. I have given you all the information that you need to know about the scholarship that I got. One of the most special scholarships you can ever get. And I hope you guys get watch that video, please, and apply. Apply for that scholarship. Apply for that scholarship. Please do. It's a scholarship. I have given you the links to that scholarship. I have given you the person to contact, and you can go. It's everything in the video. I have given you everything to know about that scholarship. One of the most unique scholarships you can ever get. A lot of scholarships you are working for the school. This scholarship, you're not working for the school, you're working for a US employer. Very unique. I don't even think I haven't seen a scholarship that is like that. But it's part of North Dakota wanting to open doors globally for people to come into North Dakota. It's a great opportunity. Great opportunity. But after I put all my savings on the altar, whoa, a year later, I'm boarding a plane to go to the United States of America. So I graduate the University of Nairobi December 5th. Okay? December 14th, I'm on a plane to go to the university, to go to North Dakota State University and do my master's. I mean, I did not tarmac. That was the reason I kept my savings, was so that I can tarmac after I finish college. But because I put my money on the altar and I said I'm taking my faith from my savings and I'm putting in God's hands, God took care of it. I did not tarmac. Graduate on the 5th. Celebrate. Before I know it, I'm on the plane. Found myself in the US. Finished school. So I got my bachelor's degree in accounting from the University of Nairobi. I came here, got my master's of accountancy degree from the North Dakota State University. Finished that, do my CPA, and an American CPA, one of the hardest exams out there. The American CPA exam is really difficult. It has a less than 40%, about a 40% or so passing mark. A lot of people who start the exam do not finish the exam. I do my exams, I pass all of them first try. I'm a CPA. The dream that God put in my mind when I was a small boy is my reality today. I'm an accountant. Yeah. So I'm going to go back to the question I started with. What word are you holding on to today? What word are you holding on to today? Is it the kind of word that you tell people and people are like, you're crazy? Is it the kind of word that scares the living out of you? I'm here to tell you that God is faithful and true. And he's faithful to do it. He did it for me. He did it for me. Took a while, but he did it for me. And he did it well. He did it well. His blessings are yeah and amen. His blessings, they make it rich and addeth no sorrow. That word that you have on today, hold on to that word. Do not give up on the word. Do not. Do not. Do not. I've told you my own testimony. I've gave you scriptures. I gave you testimonies of people in the Bible. People like Joseph. Joseph, God started with dreams that almost killed him. He was almost killed by his family because of his dreams. But Joseph gets to realize his dreams. Abraham, Abraham, God gives him a word in place, and to become father of many nations. And God is like, I need you to sacrifice your son. I'm like, wait, what do you mean? You need me to sacrifice my son? This is the son. It's like, and then so that's Abraham. It's like, okay, God, you promised me to be a father of many nations, but now the son that I have waited for so long to get, now you want me to sacrifice him. But God knew all along what he was doing. And and even with Sarah, God gave him Sarah a promise to say, I'm going to give you a child. And it's like, I am way past age. How am I ever gonna get a child at this? I'm really old. But what does God do? I mean, I can stay here and tell you story after story, but Hebrews 11 tells you a lot of stories, but also the Bible tells you a lot of stories about faith in action. Hold on to the word that God has promised you, because he is faithful. God is not a man that he should lie, neither is he a son of man that he change his mind. But whatever he says, he does. He does. He does. He really does. He really does. And he did it for me. Yeah. Huh. So now you guys believe I can preach. I love the Lord, man. I love the Lord because I have an awesome relationship with God, because God loves us just the way we are. God is God is the only one that just doesn't really judge us for who we are. He just takes us. Hey, you come here. Yeah. When I think about like the people that God uses, it brings me back to even Trump. Because for the longest time I kept thinking, wait, so President Trump is the chosen one? How, when the way he speaks, the way he treats women and all those things, and you look at his character and you're like, no way. But then I'm reminded of David, and the kind of man he was, but how God used him in spite of who he was. I mean, look at Moses. Moses was he was a murderer. Moses was a murderer. Yeah, he killed somebody. But that's the guy that God uses to take his. That's the guy that God uses to take his people from Egypt. So it's not about who you are. It's not about how broken you are. It's, are you gonna let him use you for who you are? You don't need to be qualified. You don't need to have everything in place. You just come as you are. That's what he says. Come as you are, with all your baggage, with everything that you come with all your shortcomings. Come as you are, and he'll just use you the way you are. Yeah, I love God because, man, I would not even have chosen myself as a candidate to be to what God has done in my life, but He still used me. He still did it for me, and He's gonna do it for you. All right, praise the Lord. Praise the Lord, church. All right. Okay, okie dokie, okie dokie.